Right, good evening councillors and gallery and officers, and welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting for February. Could I ask the General Manager to make announcements regarding the live streaming of the meeting, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The meeting is being live streamed and or recorded for on-demand viewing via Council's website. Attendance at the meeting is to be taken as consent by a person of their image and or voice being webcast. All speakers should refrain from making any defamatory comments or releasing personal information about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from any defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings. All liability will rest with the individual who made the comments. The meeting must not be recorded by others without prior written consent of the Council in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and staff are obligated to declare conflicts of interest as required under the Local Government Act 1993 and Council's adopted Code of Conduct. Councillors are reminded of their oath of office whereby they have declared and affirmed that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Wentworth Shire and the Wentworth Shire Council, and they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. Could I invite all who are able to stand, please, for the prayer and acknowledgement of country? I would like to pay my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, and pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging. We give thanks for this day and for the opportunity to work together. May we represent all members of our community fairly. We seek blessings on our meeting here today. Amen. Could I invite councillors and officers to remain standing, please, for a minute silence in tribute to the memory of our councillor, Stephen Haywood. Thank the chamber. Please be seated. Okay, I've received an apology from Councillor McAllister. Are there any other apologies or leave of absence requests? Could I have a mover for the apologies? Thanks, Councillor Elstone. Councillor Cooper, all in favour? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interests? Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a pecuniary not significant on pages 76, 93 section 9, 99 section 9, 132, 134, on 3.2.20 twice and 3.2.27. They mention the Wentworth Bowling Club. I'm the president of that club in a volunteer position.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further disclosures? Thank you. We'll move to item 5, confirmation of the minutes. Could I please have a mover? Councillor Crisp, seconded. Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, just one correction, please, for item 9.2. Against the motion, I'm listed as against that motion. I actually voted in favour of the motion, so that could be corrected. Thank you.
Okay, item 9.2. Did you say item 9.2?
9.2. Page 12, sorry.
Yes, sorry, you are
Yeah.
listed as against the motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Corrected.
I did check the videotape just to make sure that I wasn't mixed up myself, but no, I definitely voted in favour.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Nichols?
Mayor, I can't pick up the page, but there is one there where it's got Councillor Rodder, I believe, as having voted against an item and she was not in the room. When I find it, when I come up to it, I'll tell you what number it is.
Okay, so we'll be...
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favour to confirm the minutes? Carried unanimously, thank you. Item 6, outstanding matters from previous minutes. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Beaumont. Is there any discussion on this item? Councillor Rodder.
Just like to get some feedback on the user group agreements, where that process is at. I see that it says February 2024. However, at the most recent Caramar Drive users group meeting, that wasn't discussed at all. So has that been external to those user group meetings?
The internal review due to happen within the next week prior to the end of this month, and then follow on through from that back to the user groups. So at the moment, yeah, we're a little bit behind, but still sticking with, in general terms, to that time frame.
As I'm not aware of any feedback that's been sought from the user group committees, that's all.
Feedback from the user group committees will be sought after the internal assessment on what's going to be proposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beaumont.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, I did ask at the last meeting, the January meeting, whether in relation to item 10.1, then specifically the Heritage and History Advisory Committee, but just wonder whether we could schedule an inaugural meeting just as a starting point, because we have appointed members of the community to that committee, and back in I think it was about November last year, and I just think it would be timely to have at least an inaugural meeting. It needn't be very long, but just to sort of establish the committee, and flowing on from that, of course, there will be an agenda set for future meetings, but I think we should at least have an inaugural.
Thanks, Councillor.
Yeah, as agreed last meeting, we will definitely, now that George has settled in and other bits and pieces on the departure of Matthew, we'll coordinate that. We've been talking about Ruby and other agenda items. The focus was around the Floodplain Management Committee, but now we'll move forward into some arrangements around the Heritage Advisory Committee. I've reached out to Greg Harrison and other members, so I'll do that and formulate a committee meeting in the not too distant future.
Thank you. Okay. All in favour of... Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 7, I move my mayoral report. Seeking a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Crisp. I'd also like to use this report to place on record our gratitude for the life and contribution of Councillor Stephen Haywood. Steve was a strong and passionate advocate for all rural issues, but always based his decision-making on what was best for Wentworth Shire. Steve was first elected to council in 2016. He was re-elected in 2021 and served on multiple committees until he lost his health battle recently. Councillor Haywood will be remembered as a gentleman and will be missed by his fellow councillors, council officers and all who knew him. On behalf of council, I'd like to extend our sincere condolences to Andrea, Jason and Kylie, Shannon and their families. Thank you. Further, I move the following mayoral minute. That council request a ministerial order to dispense with the need to have a by-election under section 294 of the Local Government Act 1993 following the passing of Councillor Stephen Haywood. I don't, but thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Rodder.
The mayoral meeting on the 30th of January was at the Midway,
Thank you.
We included that business. That's a mayoral minute, that's all done.
Yes, there is detail if anybody is seeking any detail.
For that, but the council is in agreement with that. We write to the minister and we ask for that dispensation. That's all agreed to. Yes.
All in agreement? All in agreement. Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Crisp. All in favour? Thank you. Any councillor reports? Councillor Nichols, then Councillor Rodder.
Just a short report, Mr Mayor. I'd like to report on the Australia Day event held at the Kumiela Club. I thought it was very well run. I thought the people who were inaugurated and came in as Australian citizens were extremely happy, and I thought that this year the guest speaker didn't miss a beat. He was concise. He picked up on all sorts of things that people were doing, and I think he was certainly advantageous for us to have him here. So well done to all concerned. I didn't see the other venues. Probably other councillors did, but well done for Kumiela.
Mr Mike Goldman, a compelling ambassador. Councillor Rodder.
Very humorous chap. Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I'd just like to do a brief report from the Wentworth Regional Tourism. So last year a successful campaign was held, Why Not Winter in Wentworth? So the dates have been set for the campaign this year. It'll be bookended by two major events in our region, the Junction Rally on the 6th and 7th of July and the Wentworth Show on the 24th and 25th of August. The actual Why Not Winter in Wentworth will run from the 15th of July through to the 23rd of August, with those other two major events at either end of that campaign. So I encourage everybody to enjoy the best that our region has to offer over that Why Not Winter in Wentworth campaign. Quickly on another group, the Australian Inland Botanic Gardens. Magenta Art Prize is a fundraising initiative for the gardens which will be held at the gardens over Easter. It will include our famous breakfast and tractor train tour. I would encourage everybody who's available to pop across and have a look at what's looking likely to be a fabulous display of artworks and photographs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further reports? Thank you. There are no, item 8, there are no reports from committees. Item 9, reports to Council. Item 9.1, could I have a mover for the General Manager's report? Thanks, Councillor Elstone, seconded Councillor Cooper. Open for discussion. Councillor Rodder.
Again, the mayoral meeting was held at the Midway.
Thank you. 30th of January. All those in favour of accepting the report? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.2, request for funding. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Beaumont. Open for discussion. And that will require a nomination of...
Mr Mayor, can we just nominate what you're moving, please?
So I'm moving to allocate $25,000 of funds to the Sport Aircraft Association of Australia towards the Osprey 2024 event and approve a budget variation of the same amount. And if I may add to that recommendation, to provide the event organisers with a set of criteria so that there is a collection of visitor data and an acquittal completed for the event, plus the promotion of the Wentworth Shire Council funding of that event, plus promotion of the event throughout the region so that people are very well aware, which I think they probably are, but just to ensure that people know that it's actually on.
Okay, thanks.
It's
So,
very long-winded. I'm sorry, Mr Mayor.
so the recommendation becomes A plus the criteria. So that was the yep. Is the seconder pleased with that? Thanks, Councillor Beaumont. Open for discussion. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.3, the January monthly finance report. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Rodder, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Open for discussion. All those in favour of accepting the report as printed? Councillor Beaumont? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.4, the monthly investment report for January 2024. Moved Councillor Crisp, seconded Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. All those in favour of accepting the report as printed? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.5, the December quarterly budget review, the second quarter of the 23-24 financial year. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Elstone. Seconded, Councillor Rodder. Open for discussion. Councillor Beaumont.
Yeah, just a question. Page 65, the chart at the top of the page, grants and contributions, capital. The difference between received and budgeted, the received would appear to be perhaps, well, not equal to roughly 50% at this stage of the year. Is that typical or normal?
Yes. Yeah, so the blue line is the total budget for the year,
Yep.
and then the green line is what we've received up until the end of December.
Right.
Yep.
So would you feel there's a shortfall in the amount received at this time of year?
A lot of it's depending on timing of when payments happen, so it's not, pardon me, it's not unrealistic or unusual for that to be a little bit behind target come December, and usually it picks up over the back half of the financial year.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that a similar explanation for grants and contributions,
Yep.
which is the next line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Councillor Nichols.
Yep. It is pleasing to see the Birronga landfill tipping fees are some 600,000 above what our expenditure is, and moving in the right direction, and that's good for the Shire.
Indeed. Any further questions? Those in favour of accepting the...
Sorry.
Councillor
Sorry, I did
Beaumont.
have another one. On page 69, doubtful debts, $47,730. What would comprise that figure mostly?
This question gets asked a lot, usually by Councillor Nichols, but so generally what that is it's not representative of one particular debt, so it's the way we have to account for it under our accounting standards, it's based on the collection rate of our debts as a total. So based on what our outstanding debts were at the end of June last year, we then apply a percentage, which is roughly 5 or 6% or something like that, of debts that we don't generally collect, and then we quarantine that, or we acknowledge that of the amount of money we had outstanding, that potentially 47 of them may turn out to be bad. We may not be able to collect them, but it's not attributable to one particular debt or anything along those lines. Whereas previously it used to be like that. You could go through and you'd actually have to nominate particular creditors and say, yep, we think that's going to be a bad debt or no, but now it's purely just an amalgamation of our total debt and then a percentage of our... So each year I've got to go through all of our receipts and work out how many of our payments during the year potentially fall outside the normal creditor terms. And that then creates an average for that particular year, which then gets added to a 10-year average. It is a real figure, yes, but you can't. I can't point to you that and say that's creditor Joe Bloggs or whatever. It's a No. It's usually it's things like, because it's abnormally high because of the fact that when we invoice for grant payments and when they get paid. So in a normal, when we don't have so many grants coming in, that figure is usually a lot lower. And yeah, traditionally we have small accounts like health inspection fees and things like that when shops close down they never end up paying us and we end up having to write them off. So usually that figure's probably somewhere closer to $10,000 or $15,000, but yeah, the last few years it's been higher because of the large amount of grants that we have been receiving and we're invoicing for and then waiting for the government to pay it.
Thank you. Now, that question about doubtful debts has raised a question from Councillor Nichols.
Well, it's not the same. It's not about the same thing. It's to do with the same part of the same subject. Consultancy and legal expense report, 615,500. Is there some way that we are able to overcome that? I mean, that's only till the 31st December, and we're pushing that money. Some of that money could be spent, I think, probably better on the things we need to do in the council, but it seems very high.
Some of that expenditure is specifically related to a number of different projects that we're running. So, for example, Tompkins are doing a lot of work on the future design for the landfill and what that will look like. GSD are doing the project management of the Civic Centre project. So when that project finishes, that will drop off, and then there's a number of other experts that Jeff's area needs for various things that we have to do as far as certifications and testing and whatnot.
I have one further, Mr Mayor. On page 85, when you go through there, we have 3 toilet blocks to be built. They should almost be, they say they're active, they should almost be finished. When will these be finished? Because I'm looking at one and looking at the time structures. The 11th 4 months, 16th the 11th 20 weeks, and 14th the 11th for 8 weeks. We're past those time structures now. When are we expecting these to be finished, and are there penalties for those people that are constructing them if they're not completed on time? It's on page 85. It's 9.5, attachment 1. You can have a look at mine if you want.
Toilets.
They're not actually included in the next agenda item as the project. So it's a valid question. I can ask it in the next.
So the CP and the toilet ones will see. Is there another toilet one as well?
Just can't see those on page 85, Councillor.
The three lines I've underlined.
So the 3 that are underlined, so toilet facilities, Tapio Park, so that they're under construction at the moment and scheduled to be finished prior to the centenary celebrations for Dareton, and that toilet block and connection will be finished actually at the end of March. The next one under that is George Gordon Oval Netball Court refurbishment. So that in the works report, so that is on track to be completed also by the start of the playing season. The toilet or the netball court building, showers, toilet facilities are currently under construction there at the moment as well. So all those three projects.
Look, I understand that they're being done, but if you look at the time structure that says that they're allowed to have, they're outside the time structure. So in other words, they're in default. If they say 8 weeks, 8 weeks is 8 weeks. If they say 3 months, 3 months is 3 months. It's not 14 or 15 weeks. So we too often, we have projects with a finishing time, and we accept time after time after time extensions without approval of the time that that are put in when we accept the tender.
Just on those ones though, Councillor, they've got 6 and 4 month timeframes that commenced in November 2023.
Yeah,
so
one's 8 weeks.
I think they're on track.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All in favour? Yes? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Beaumont. Item 9.6. Quarterly Operational Plan Progress Report. Could I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Elstone. Councillor Cooper. Open for discussion.
I've got a toilet question too, Mr Mayor, if you don't mind. So,
Councillor?
So I've been doing a bit of touring around the Shire, and I noticed that we've got a number of toilet facilities that are currently in the process of being replaced. One at Curwell, one up the Broken Hill Road, and another one that escapes me at present. Have you got an update? Because I don't see those in the operational plan progress report.
Those projects are Transport for New South Wales related projects, so not being undertaken by council.
Do we have an ETA on when those facilities will be completed at all?
No.
That's unfortunate because it's pretty hot in the middle of summer sitting in a portable toilet in the middle of the boondocks.
Yeah, all those projects, totally controlled and run by Transport for New South Wales, yeah.
Have we got any luck with employing a transport officer yet?
No, not at this stage.
Right. Perhaps if we had a conduit through to them, we may be able to impress upon them the need to get those projects completed.
Yep. We're currently advertising for that position. So any questions relating to 9.6? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, item 9.7, request for financial assistance. Councillor Rodder is moving. Could I have a seconder, please? Are you moving the recommendation as printed, or?
So I move the item to be discussed.
Okay, Councillor Crisp seconded. Thank you. Open for discussion. Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The one item here that is of concern is the Mildura Horse Complex's application for a fee waiver, and it's for the hire of the Wentworth Showgrounds. And I know that we've received information about the views of the user groups over this application. However, the horse complex have, in their letter, have also made a compelling argument to be allowed to be use these facilities. I'm also aware that they would like to are considering relocating from their current site. And that could offer an opportunity for the Wentworth Shire to attract another group to to operate from our side of the river, providing services to our community and beyond, and there could well be some benefits from that. So this is a difficult one for us, and how to manage this, I think, is going to be challenging, and given the short time frame, even more challenging to find a way through this particular application. So I think, as I understand, and I'm sure others can add to these comments, that the user groups have some concerns about the use of the Wentworth Showgrounds and Racetrack Complex for this event, and those concerns do have a strong basis in some history, but also we do have facilities, and this is a group of people who have had considerable issues with flooding and the delay in recovering their existing complex. So I guess it's trying to find a way forward to how we can satisfy the user groups who have some legitimate concerns, but also assist this group to pursue their passion. So whether in managing this, that I would consider that we may need to amend this after some discussion with councillors to gauge their views. So I'd foreshadow that we need to amend this recommendation so as we can endeavour to please all the parties that are involved.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Rodder.
I think one of the things that needs to be taken into consideration in regards to the Mildura Horse Complex request is that a number of the people who use that facility are actually Wentworth Shire Council residents. So they're users of the facility, which has been located across the other side of the river for reasons of flooding. They have not been able to access that. My understanding from the application is that some of those people are already involved in the Wentworth show operation of the horse events there. And yeah, I do agree with Councillor Chris, we do need to perhaps separate it out, and so to that end I would like to separate the motion, please, and if we could firstly vote as a council on funding the application from the Wentworth Rowing Club for the local community groups to undertake the food safety supervisors course as a separate item, and then vote on the Mildura Horse Complex request, and then put conditions upon that after discussion with councillors, if that would be okay, Mr Mayor.
No worries. I'll just get some guidance on splitting that motion up as opposed to amending the motion in front of us.
Just a mover in relation to the rowing club.
Okay. So if I can get a mover to accept the first request being for $3,700, Councillor Nichols, Councillor Rodder seconding that. Any speakers? All in favour? So the motion to approve the Wentworth District Rowing Club for a grant of $3,700 has been carried unanimously. We'll now deal with the second part of the original motion, which is the Mildura Horse Complex. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Crisp.
I'd like to move that council approves a fee waiver subject to the available location as specified by the user groups being suitable to the Mildura Horse Complex application. Oh, no, to the Mildura Horse Complex.
Thanks, Councillor Crisp. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Cooper.
Can I speak to that, to add, perhaps, councillor Crisp, that conditions be placed upon the Mildura Horse Complex to comply with certain conditions, which include, for example, not tying to the running rail, and should that be included in the
Well,
motion?
I think that's captured in conditions imposed by the user groups acceptable or suitable to the Mildura Horse Complex.
Okay.
It's a bit of a capture-all, as I understand.
Yes. I would be comfortable with, in the motion I moved, that after the word specified, available location,
Words are on
subject,
screen if that helps.
yeah,
Councillor.
subject to conditions specified.
Subject to the available location and conditions. Okay, so the motion as printed at the present moment is that council approves a fee waiver subject to conditions as specified by the user groups being suitable to the Mildura Horse Complex application. Mildura Horse Complex.
Yep.
Okay, that's the motion moved. Are you happy with that, seconder? Thanks, councillor Cooper. Any discussion? Those in favour of the motion? Those against the motion? Councillor Nichols against, please. That is carried. Okay, thank you, councillors. Item 9.8, Wentworth Civic Centre redevelopment budget. There's a recommendation here that the redevelopment budget be amended. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Crisp. Open for discussion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Beaumont.
Yep. I'd just like some explanation around nominated provisional items. Exactly what does that mean? What are the provisional items?
Within other documentation which is here, outside the contract, there was nomination of provisional items for delivery of unsuspected items such as replacement of water mains and replacement of other materials and items. So we had a schedule which was kept outside the contract for be provisional items, so that if the unforeseen did happen, we could action that through this provisional money. It was talked about within the original report, but it was just not put in the resolution of council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those in favour, please. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.9, lifting of alcohol-free zone, Wentworth District Rowing Club Annual Easter Regatta. Moved Councillor Elstone, seconded Councillor Cooper. Thank you. Open for discussion. Did you have a question, Councillor Beaumont?
No, I had to hand up to second the motion, that was all.
No worries. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Unanimously. Okay, on to our favourite, item 9.10, project and works update for February 2024. Moved Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Beaumont. Open for discussion. Councillor Nichols.
Yes, Mr Mayor. On the projects, the Bironga toilet block, scope being reviewed including permanent power supply rather than solar. Why was this changed? In our temperature, our heat and so on and so forth?
I will have to take that question on notice, councillor, and discuss with the engineering team, provide you with the answer on that one.
If you would please, because we have solar attached to a lot of lights down there at Kilwa in a park, and those lights, and they must have some sort of something that keeps them going. They go all night. And to my way of thinking, if you're coming home from somewhere at 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't need 15 lights going down a function. I think it's one of those things, they don't seem to have the ability to be turned off. Yeah, so I don't think you need toilet lights going all night either.
It may relate to the what is required for the disposal system, whether there's a sewer pump that's required at that particular facility, and the amount of power required to operate the pump, which may, or I'm just surmising, but that could be a contributing reason why they are having to look at a different power supply.
That's my understanding from my update in relation to when reading this. It was exactly that it's not about lights and the power for the toilets, it's about the disposal method and the need for a pump station to pump the sewer up into our reticulated system.
Thank you. Had that been reported, I wouldn't have asked the question.
Thanks, Councillor Nichols.
That's why I had to ask the question.
Councillor Elstone.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Director Gunn, I had a bit of a look at the Junction Island Bridge today. It looks pretty good. When's it going to open?
Speaking with the project officer this afternoon, so the bridge component itself should be finished by next week, and then the staff will move on to the setting up of the pathway, the crusher dust pathway. So they'll probably keep the bridge closed until such time as they get all their material and across, and the pathway matches up to it. But yeah, the superstructure and components of the bridge and the landing are getting close to completed and should be within the next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Councillor Nichols?
just further to that question, is it likely that the Junction Island walk will be open by Easter?
I will take that question on notice. I think that is the intention, but I would need to check that.
The bridge will allow people onto there, but there won't be any serviceability in the actual walking down to the point.
Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On page 165, I've just been talking about toilet blocks. Civil work package to be advertised. Assessment review undertaken on electric supplied power mains versus solar. One would assume that the solar will disappear from there as well. Or is that the same?
Same one.
Same one. Yeah, well, we're doubling up, so it's one of those. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Excuse me. Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favour of accepting the report? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Gosh, I forgot to ask about the water cycling management plan. I'll just have to wait till next month.
I have some information.
Late question, Mr Mayor.
Oh, it's all right. We have item 10.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Notice of motions.
If I could start.
Indeed.
Question
Councillor
to Director
Elstone.
Gunn. Where and how are we going with the integrated water cycle management plan into year 8?
Thank you for that question. Okay, so final discussions with the manager engineering this afternoon has advised that the and this is following the most recent meeting with the providers. The issues paper to be provided to council in 4 weeks' time, so mid-March. Also, just completed, so there was some additional information with regards to the asset condition and risk assessment in that issues paper. They have been completed. So the issues paper comes to council in March for our review and return to Public Works for inclusion in the draft strategy. Council did also within the last quarter period request some extra works with regards to water use primarily from the wineries at Baronga. So there was some anomalies in some of the, excuse me, in the water use. So there's been significant work done in that space to make sure that that's fully inclusive, and also the impact from the River Murray with regards to the low levels and the high levels. Also some additional work's done in that space. That being said, that information into the issues paper in March, the review and the draft strategy to be provided to Council at the end of September, beginning of October, which is the completed project.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Beaumont, then Councillor Crisp.
Yes, look, if I could just continue on from my request of the January meeting in relation to footpath along Cadell Street down to the junction. I've actually had some residents of Murray Street approach me in the last week in relation to footpath access along Murray Street. There was a footpath there up until about 2 years ago, which was removed for whatever reason. There are elderly people that live down Murray Street, and they also, required to walk on the road or ride gophers on the road to get into town. And over the last week or so, we've had the Highway Patrol cruising around town, pulling up people on gophers that are riding on the road. So there's a couple of issues there, but I think I'm wondering whether we could add the Murray Street footpath to my initial request of January, or whether we need to conduct a more broader review of footpaths around, Wentworth and perhaps the Shire.
All the above, Councillor Beaumont. Probably should be noted that the Murray Street one will be easier to rectify through the development of the subdivision rather than the Cadell Street one, for which we need to find money and resourcing and do a pedestrian access mobility plan or something that sort of substantiates and justifies the need for that. So duly noted, I think the Murray Street one will be completed before the Cadell Street one.
Okay, so do you have any sort of a timeline in relation to Murray Street?
18 months.
Okay. All right. And in terms of Cadell Street then, if there needs to be reviews and that conducted, I would have thought that who would conduct those reviews? Well, to me, it's pretty logical that you just don't mix pedestrian traffic with motorised traffic, and it's a common path for pedestrians down to the junction, and will only get busier once the caravan park's open. So is that something that can be expedited through whatever relevant funding body or authority?
Anything's possible, I guess, but the reality is, in terms of asset management plans and other strategic documents that we have within our organisation, we just need to bring this one onto the list in some way, shape or form. So I guess it'll have a look at the existing plan and just modify it, and I'm surprised it's not even on it, to be honest with you. So I'll review that, or we'll get that reviewed and have a closer look at it.
Yeah. I mean, to me it is a priority, and it's because of the amount of foot traffic along that section of Cadell Street, and it's a genuine safety risk for pedestrians.
Thanks.
I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I had been contacted by a ratepayer in the Livingston Drive area, and I have forwarded the concerns on to the Director of Roads and Engineering. So it's in regards to the green space in that Livingston Drive area, and damage to sprinkler systems and an asset, and one of only a few green spaces provided by Council in Golgol. Concerns about that area as a whole, with further work required, please.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Approximately some 6 years ago, council decided to do an avenue of trees each side of the highway as you come into Wentworth. Trees were picked by councillors. They may have picked the wrong varieties. However, in that time, we have had flood go through and very few of the trees died from flood. We have a stand of probably 6 trees that are probably the height they should be, and other than that we've got a medley of half dead, dead and trees that are suffering. Can somebody please have a look at those trees again? There are various other good ones along the line. There probably should be 75 trees on either side of the road. Some of them look like sticks with a bit of fluff on top. As I say, there's about 6 in a row that look great. There's another 3 or 4 up further that look great, and there's a few on the other side that look great. We need to do something with these trees, and even there's one big one that is currently dying, and the only reason I can think it's dying would be because of lack of water at this time of the year. So can we please have somebody look at those trees and try to do something with them? We've replaced a certain amount of them. The original amount of money was donated by Rotary that put those trees in, and I think it's a very, very poor entry look to Wentworth when we're saying how proud we are of our shire, how proud we are of our region, when we can't maintain or even keep these trees so they're living and they look functional.
Thank you, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you.
Just further to that, Mr Mayor, if I may, quickly. So when the selection of species for streetscape planning came before council, I did recommend that we have a look at the species that were contained within. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I would like to suggest again that we look, because the species that were planted there were unsuitable, and I think the broader policy needs to be looked at, because there are much better species available to grow within this region than what's included in that document.
Thank you.
Councillor, if I might just answer that. When the decision made to choose those trees came about, councillors were given a group of about 4, and they were in that group, and that's what were picked at that time.
Thanks, Councillor Nichols. Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to ask Director Gunn to pass on the thanks of the Kumiala Centenary Committee for resolving some of the traffic management issues over time that have evolved for the street parade that will occur as part of those celebrations. Thank you. The experience of all those who are visiting and watching it will be considerably enhanced by resolving all the detour issues. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. That concludes our meeting, and our next meeting is the 20th of March 2024. Thank you.